Hey, good morning. Today is Wednesday. It is the 16th day of Sivan. And today's class is sponsored by Charles Chaim Tzvi Fishbaum. And that's in a very special chus. Today, this is the day of his wedding. The Kala, Miriam Seton, soon to be Fishbaum. And thank you for sponsoring. The Eivshir should have a binyan adayad, but al yeseda teirav mitzvahs, as the Rebbe says, based on the foundation, the way it is illuminated by the teachings of Hasidus, which is what we're doing right now, the learning of Hasidus. So learning of Tanya, and today we're learning chapter 5. In Shaar Yichud vEmuna. And as we mentioned yesterday, that chapter 5 is part of a parenthetical note that the Alter Rebbe added to this Shaar Yichud vEmuna, when he's talking about the oneness, the unity of Hashem creating the world, and how it's done. So he's giving here a parenthetical note explaining the inner meaning of the way Hashem created with the chesed and the gevura, with the attributes of kindness and giving a revelation, and the attribute of restriction. So in today's lesson, we're going to learn about the idea, what it means. What is it? The concept of the miracles in this world, the place of tzaddikim, the righteous people in this world. And you'll find out that really this idea, the righteous people, the miracles, is something that we all have within ourselves as well. So yesterday we explained that in order for Hashem to create a world, if it would be done just by revelation, we would not be able to exist. Just like the sunlight within the sun does not have its own existence. It is nullified in the great light of the sun. So if it would be God's revelation without any limitations, we wouldn't be able to exist. For that, Hashem needed to have the attribute of restriction, the gevura, the filtering of the light. However, the Alter Rebbe explained yesterday that the attribute of gevura, that itself is not what some may think, that this is serving just as a blockage, something that a filter, like there is a sun and you put a curtain to reduce the light of the sun. That is not so. The attribute of gevura itself he calls it the kalim, the vessels, the way it's called in the Kabbalah. And it has itself also a positive force. It is shaping the light, so to speak. But not shaping the light as it's the light itself, but shaping the light to our perception. And we gave the example to understand this, the example of the energy that comes from the power plants. You need to reduce the energy in order to be able to use it in your appliances. If you will have the energy, the 10,000 volts coming from the power plant straight into your appliance, it's going to blow up. You're not going to be able to take it. Now, what is interesting, this is an example that is not taken from the sources. It's just something to be able to describe the concept a little bit. So what is interesting, you have the same energy that comes from that comes from the power plant. The same energy can be used to power an oven to make hot, and it can be used also the same energy to power like an air conditioner to make cold. So in a way, we can say that, the tools, the vessels, shape the energy to its own needs. But this is an example that is not from the sources, but the example that it does bring down from the sources is the example of the light, like a water that comes into a colored cup. So when you put water, the water is colorless, but when you put it in a red cup or a blue cup, then what you see, when it comes to you, is a colored water. You see colored water. So the same thing, here's the idea, is that the tzimtzum, the power that Hashem gave, the power of restriction, of containing the light, is shaping it to the way to each individual creature that should be able to receive its light and not to be nullified. So that's what Alter Rebbe said, that the power of restriction is not just a blocking power, force that's filtering, but is something that gives us and shapes the light for us to be able to perceive it in the right way. Now here, in this chapter 5, Alter Rebbe continues in the note. So number one, he continues to bring a proof to this point that we just said from the Medrash. There is a Medrash that says that in the beginning of the creation, God wanted to create the world with the attribute of judgment, of din, which is the idea of the filtering, the restriction. But then he saw that the world will not be able to sustain with this attribute, so he joined in the attribute of chesed, of kindness, of compassion. Now, what does that mean? When we say that God wanted to create the world with the attribute of restriction, if restriction is something that blocks and doesn't create, then how would he create with the attributes of restriction? So obviously, when we say, the Medrash says that God wanted to create the world with the attributes of din, attributes of restriction, that means that the attribute of restriction itself is just like we said, that it has a creative power to it. It's just shaping the light and creating in a form that the light is concealed from us and we can only see the covered light, the filtered light. So that itself shows you that the attribute of Gevura has the creative power. And then, what does it mean that God saw that the world would not be able to sustain? The Alter Rebbe is going to explain that Hashem saw that the world with only restriction, you wouldn't be able to see the godliness. It would be only restriction, and godliness would be totally concealed, and we would never be able to find the truth, to find the godliness. For that reason, Hashem, what did he do? He joined in also the attribute of chesed, the attribute of compassion, of kindness, of revelation. What does that mean? He implanted in this world sparks of the light of the truth of God that is not limited to the restriction and the darkness of this world. Where is it? It is tzaddikim, righteous people, who see the world in different eyes, who live in a different level. They look at the world, but they see godliness. And also in the fact that there is miracles. What is a miracle? A miracle is breaking the laws of nature, showing that the nature, which is restriction, restricting the forces of Hashem into the nature, that is not, God is not limited by that. And implanted in this world, this attribute of compassion, so that we can have the ability to see the truth. So let's look inside. Let's see what the Alter Rebbe says. Chapter 5 in Shaar, Yichud, vEmuna, says the Alter Rebbe, v'inei, al ze Razal, concerning this, what we just explained, concerning the concept that all of creation came about through the process of tzimtzum, which enables created being to believe that they enjoy an independent form of existence. Our sages of blessed memory have said, originally, it arose in God's thought to create the world through the attribute of stern judgment, restriction, through the attribute of tzimtzum and gevura. And then he saw, however, that in this manner the world could not endure. Why? Because you will not see the godliness at all. He associated the attribute of mercy in its creation. And what is the attribute of mercy that God joined in and made it a partner in the creation? This is, he combined with it the attribute of mercy, means that the revelation within the world of godliness and of supernal power through the tzaddikim. That's number one. And then also the oisais u'moifsim shebatayra, and through the signs and miracles recorded in the Torah. But it's not only the signs and miracles that are recorded in the Torah. It is the signs and miracles that comes through the Torah. What that means, the Torah has the power of the Torah is a power that has the ability to transcend the limitations of the world. The Torah is, on the one hand, it comes in forms of physical form. Anything in the Torah comes with in physical dimensions. But yet in the Torah itself, the power of the Torah is a godly power connected with the very essence of Hashem that is way beyond anything that the Torah, that the world restricts. So that's the oisis and meifsim shebatayra, the miracles that is in the Torah, meaning the miracles that come through the Torah. So not only miracles that is recorded in the Torah. One of the miracles that says, the story with Rabbi Hanina ben Doisa, that he was a poor person, and his wife was lighting the candles, the Shabbos candles, and then she realized that instead of putting oil, she put vinegar. And she was besides herself, and she came to her husband, and Rabbi Hanina said, "What's the big deal? Mi she'ama l'shemen v'yadlik, yoima l'chaymetz v'yadlik." The one who said to the oil, it should light, will say to the vinegar that should light. What does it mean? So as we explained earlier in this part of the time, the first chapter of Shaar Yichud v'Emuna, we explained that everything in this world, every creature, every creation in this world comes as a result of the combination of the letters. The energy comes through the different letters, the 22 Hebrew letters, and the combination of them, they bring the specific energy to that creature, to that creation, to have its ability to do what it needs to do. So the oil has a certain combination, Hashem said to the oil, it should bring light. It should be a fuel for the fire. So Rabbi Hanina said, the same God that said to the oil will say to the chometz, will say to the vinegar. So through the Torah that is beyond limitations, is able to manipulate the codes that Hashem gave to the oil and give it to the vinegar. So that is the miracles. The miracles remind us that we are not limited within the restrictions of this physical world, and we can go beyond. Continues the Alter Rebbe. והנה על זה אמרו בזויה דלעילה בסתרא דקדושא אילה, איס ימינה ואיס שמאלה, דהיינו חסד וגבורה. Regarding the fact that the attribute of chesed and gvura transcend intellect, it was stated in the Zohar above, in the side of the supernal holiness in the world of Atzilus, which is far superior to the three lower worlds of Bria, Yetzir, and Asiyah, there is right and left, namely chesed and gevura. Pirush, B'shteyem ein midos elokus lemayla miseichel hanivroim b'asagasa. This statement was surely not written simply to inform us that chesed and gevura exist. But this is already well known. Rather, what does this statement say? This means that both gevura as well as chesed, the attribute of kindness and the attribute of restriction, are attributes of godliness that transcends the intellect and comprehension of created beings. The iyu vegarmo yichad ba'olam ha'atzilus, for he and his attributes are one in the world of Atzilus, both chesed and gevura being thus wholly united with him. So what is the Alter Rebbe saying here? We spoke yesterday about the ability that we have to in revealing the godliness. And we asked about a physical object. When you have a physical object, what is the purpose? What are we supposed to do with the physical object? We are supposed to insert and reveal the godliness within it. And that is why we do the mitzvahs. The mitzvahs is revealing godliness within the physical object. But the question is, what about the tzaddikim? We just said that the tzaddikim, they are the rachamim. They are the combination of the revelation in this world. So they already have this revelation in this godly world. Is there anything that a tzaddik can have that in way of revelation, the godliness through the mitzvahs? Is there anything that the tzaddik can contribute? The tzaddik already has this godly revelation. The Alter Rebbe explains here that although the tzaddikim, they live in a higher world, they see this, but still there is the limitations that they also have. Yes, they have the ability to reveal, but even Moshe Rabbeinu, the level of Moshe Rabbeinu achieves in understanding is not in the ultimate revelation. It's only the way, it's certainly much, much higher than what we see, but it's only in the way, what he calls it here, that Atzilus coming through the level of Beriah. Atzilus being the highest world, Beriah the second world, and within that also, he explains in the different levels and the different attributes that they have. Says the Alter Rebbe, "Ve'af asogas Moshe Rabbeinu olav hashalom b'nevuasai loy paisa ba'olam ha'atzilus." Even the comprehension of Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses our teacher, peace unto him, in his prophetic vision did not extend to the world of Atzilus itself, Elo al yedei islapshusei ba'olam habriya, except through its being clothed in the world of Beriah. Ve'av gam zois loy b'shtei midos elu chesed gvura. And even then, his comprehension of the world of Atzilus didn't extend to these two attributes, meaning chesed and gevura. Elo al yedei islapshuson b'midos shelemata mehen b'madreger shel midos netzach od yesod, but only insofar as they were previously clothed in attributes which are of lower levels than themselves, meaning the attributes of netzach and hod and yesod, the Moshe Kosuv, the Shaar HaNevuah, as it is written in Shaar HaNevuah. Okay, so this is what the way the tzaddikim have it here. That the level of their godly revelation is only after the filtering. However, we learned that it says that in Gan Eden, after 120, it says that tzaddikim, they get the reward in Gan Eden, and they do enjoy the light which comes from this level in Atzilus, from this level of chesed and gevura. It comes from Atzilus through Beriah, but it's still in the levels of chesed and gevura, which is the higher levels. And even though we just said that even Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't reach that level. How do you reconcile this? So the Alter Rebbe is going to explain that in Gan Eden, what happens as a reward of the Torah that they study here in this world. The Torah that it has, as we mentioned before, the Torah has the power which is not limited. It is on the one hand in this physical world, but yet it comes from a very high level, from the very essence of Hashem. And the Torah that they study in this world serves as food for the souls of the tzaddikim. Meaning that these great levels, they do have a godly revelation, and they enjoy the light of the higher levels in Gan Eden, in heaven. Continues the Alter Rebbe says, "Rak shematan schoram shel tzaddikim beGan Eden hu asogas itzpashtus achayus ve'oyer animshach mishtei midos elu chesed gvura." It is only the tzaddikim in Gan Eden who are granted the reward of comprehending the spreading forth of the life force light and light, which issues from these attributes, from these two attributes, chesed and gevura. This comprehension of the spreading forth of life force and light, which issues from these two attributes, is the food of the souls of the tzaddikim who in this world engaged in the study of Torah for its own sake. And the Alter Rebbe explains how does it happen. Because from the fusion of these two attributes, a firmament is spread over the souls in Gan Eden. What does it mean a firmament is spread? Firmament is a concept of something which is surrounding. It is a makif, a transcendent power. But these two give a firmament, that from this firmament, this is called the firmament, the secret of the Torah. That's what it says. This firmament is called the Rosa Deiraisa, the secret of Torah, meaning the mystical dimension of the Torah. Within the firmament is the secret of the 22 letters of the Torah, which was given as an expression of these two attributes. Chesed and Gevurah have that power to give all of these 22 letters of the Torah. And where do we see that the Torah has both attributes, a chesed and a gevura, says the Alter Rebbe, kedichsiv, as it is written, miminoi eish das lamai. From his right hand, he gave unto them a fiery law. So miyaminoi, the right hand represents chesed. Chesed is on the right. Eish is fire. Fire comes from the severities, from the gevura, from the left side. So the Torah is miyaminoi eish. And das lamai is the fiery law. Das lamai, by the way, also spells Talmud, which the Torah is the Talmud, the learning of the Torah. This is the roots of it is these two attributes, the chesed and gevura, and that creates this firmament, this makif, this encompassing light. And from this firmament, from this powerful transcendent light, the drops dew, symbolic of the esoteric insights of the Torah, as food for the souls. The dew of the Torah, as we remember, mentioned the story by Matan Torah, when the Yidden had the 10 Commandments, they expired, the soul expired, and Hashem had to revive them through the dew of the Torah. So the dew of the Torah is the godly energy that comes from this makif, from this encompassing light, and that becomes food for the souls. And food means something that they internalize. The neshamas in the Gan Eden. And what is it? The Hainu Yedias Soid Chav Beis Oisi Oisa Torah. This is the knowledge of the secrets of the 22 letters of the Torah. Because this firmament is the secret of the level of knowledge, das. You know, we have the chachma, bina, and das. Wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. What is knowledge? Knowledge is the connecting. Knowledge also has the combination of both the chachma and the bina, the right side and the left side. That is why when we wear tefillin, the tefillin has 4 compartments. It says there is the dalad moichin, the 4 brains, 4 levels of the intellect. What is the 4 levels of the intellect? Chachma, bina, and das. Das is divided to 2. The right side of the das and the left side of the das. The Torah is the food of the souls in Gan Eden. Now the commandments, the mitzvahs, the commandments that we do, what do they serve up in Gan Eden? They are the garments. Mitzvahs are really one with Hashem and very powerful. They are considered the garments. What is the garments? Garments is something that it's unlike the food. Food is internalized. Garments is something which is only on the outside. As all this is explained in Zoya Vayakel, page 209 to 10, and in Eitz Chaim, portal 44, chapter 3. And this is the end of the chapter 5. What do we take from this? Obviously, it's very deep stuff. And talking about the different levels in the maiden, the neshamas, what they can get, what they cannot get. But what we can take from us, from this chapter, is the way the Alter Rebbe says that the power of the miracles comes what Hashem involved in everything in the Torah, everything in the world. Hashem created the world with restrictive forces, restrictive powers, but he incorporated, embedded in the world also the power of miracles, the power of chesed. So there was once a group of students, I mentioned the story in the past. They came to the Rebbe, and in the 1960s, and towards the end, one of the students decided to be bold with the Rebbe. He says, Rebbe, I heard that you can perform miracles. Can you do one now? Can you show us one? The Rebbe smiled. The Rebbe said that a miracle is something that each one of you can perform right now. What is a miracle? He says, if you think of something that is beyond your ability to do a certain mitzvah that you thought that this mitzvah, it will be literally impossible for you to do. And you take upon yourself and say, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this mitzvah. You just performed a miracle. You just brought out within you something that you, not only you thought you couldn't have, but literally within your framework, within the work of the world that you live in, it's impossible. But you have the ability to change that. It's interesting, connected with this week's Torah portion also. We learn about the people who could not bring the offering of the Pesach offering. And they came to Moshe Rabbeinu and they said, Lama Nigora, why should we miss out? And Moshe Rabbeinu says, hold on, let me talk to Hashem. And Hashem says, give them a second chance. And the question that is asked, if Hashem would have this in mind in the Torah, that people who could not do the first Pesach, they would do the second Pesach, then why didn't he say it in the first place? Why didn't God, when he instructed us to bring a Korban Pesach, could say, bring the offering on the 14th day of Nisan, and if you happen to be impure or you're far away or whatever happens, you have a second chance, you bring it the 14th day of year. And the answer is, why didn't God say it in the first place? Why did he wait for the people to come to Moshe and complain and say, we want it? And Moshe say to Hashem, and Hashem says, okay, I'll give him a second chance. The answer is that this is the power of the miracle that Hashem embedded within us, within each and every one of us. Hashem needed us to tap into that power. When these Jews came and says, Lama Nigara, why should we miss out? They expressed a very deep feeling that they want to be connected. They want the light. They want it. Something that comes from so deep, and that enabled to bring an addition to the Torah, an additional light to the Torah. And that is the miracle, the power of the miracle that Hashem embedded right in the beginning of the creation. Yes, there is a world. Yes, there is limitations, but Hashem embedded within this physical world our ability to go way beyond our capabilities, because we can tap into the very deep essence of the Torah and the essence of an neshama, and thereby to overcome all of the difficulties. This is the end of today's Shaar. Thank you so much for joining. And again, Mazel Tov, Chaim Tzvi and Miriam, Shabiyat Binyan Adead, Al Yeseda Torah.
Mazel Tov, Chaim Tzvi and Miriam.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.